this dialogue is done in partnership with the Embassy of India, with the Chamber of Commerce in Delhi, and of course with the partners that we have from Team Sweden here today. We have a great panel for you today. We have a representation from IKEA, from H&M, from IVL, looking at circular economy, waste, water, energy, and how you actually make change on the ground. Always good to talk about, but harder to do. So we're going to have a good conversation about deploying change and what that means for all the stakeholders involved. And we also have two great speakers. We're very happy to have Team Sweden with us today. Marlon Pettersson, Program Manager from Vinnova International Collaboration, and Eric Malmberg, Consul from the Consulate General Office in Mumbai, who will also be speaking and sharing their thoughts in today's discussion. I will start today by asking Marlon to share a presentation with us on the new joint call, fresh off the press, here with us today on the joint call for circular economy and what it entails, the partners involved, and who can apply, and its objectives. So Marlon, with this introduction to the dialogues, I will start with you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rati Davis. It's a pleasure joining you in this dialogue. And I'd like to share some information with you on in the Swedish joint call on circular economy. Sweden's on a mission to become the first carbon neutral OECD country by 2045. But we need you to join our journey. We share the air you breathe, so let us also pool our knowledge, resources, and ideas to combat carbon. Let's find, test, and implement the solutions we all desire to crack the carbon puzzle. So bring your talent, business ideas, and investments, and join us in co-creation for innovation. Next, please. This funding opportunity, in this funding opportunity, we would like to favor co-creation because shared challenges are best solved together. This is, in fact, a call, since we've come together so many research funding agencies on both the Swedish and Indian side. On the Indian side, we have DST, Department of Science and Technology, DBT, the Department of Biotechnology, MOES, Ministry of Earth Sciences, and BIREC, Biotechnology Industry Research Assistant Council. And on the Swedish side, we have Formas, a research council for sustainable development, Vinnova, Sweden's Innovation Agency, the Swedish Research Council, the Swedish Energy Agency, as well as Forte, a research council for health, working life, and welfare. And by coming together, we cover a larger part of the value chain, and we can have a wider thematic focus, and we have a larger budget. On the next slide, please, I'd like to illustrate the transition to a circular economy. It's one of the most important building blocks towards sustainability, since reuse, remanufacturing, and recycling contribute to the long-term use of materials and other resources, and thereby limiting the excess extraction of virgin resources. Next, please. Circular economy relates to several of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, from the more obvious, number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and Goal 12, responsible consumption and production, and Goal 1, no poverty, and Goal 6, clean water and sanitation, and many more. A shift to circular economy requires innovation in both the technical and social fields. Sharing solutions, renting, and other business models that increase the use of resources are often included in the concept. Although many technical solutions and circular initiatives have already been developed, there are still large knowledge gaps, spanning all the way from basic research to initiatives close to market, such as innovation and implementation in society. Next, please. We are open to fund project ideas addressing challenges related to value chains, for example, material flows, such as electronic, textile, energy, and recycling processes, as well as mining wastes. We also welcome comparative studies and projects analyzing the short and long-term effects of circular initiatives, life sciences and health, marine litter. Next, please. Societal challenges for a transition to a circular economy, like policies, government, etc., as well as other aspects relevant for citizens. Business models for circular economy, welfare, including work life, circular economy and the citizens, for example, behavior, nudging, and social values. Next, please. More on what we can fund. The purpose of the call is to support research and innovation projects relevant or highly relevant for the support and transition towards a sustainable economy or circular economy. Projects should include at least one Indian and one Swedish project participant. And projects must describe clearly how they contribute to increase sustainability by generating new knowledge, products, services, or processes. And we favor projects addressing their topics with a broad system perspective, and preferably where relevant, with a cross-sectorial approach, working with the topic from multiple perspectives. And therefore, we also have a minimum of 3 project participants in total. So you need to collaborate, preferably across sectors. Applications should specify the expected long and short-term impact of the project, and the projects may be up to 3 years long. Next, please. So who can apply? It's Swedish and Indian companies, universities, colleges, institute, testbeds, and other relevant actors. On the Swedish side, everyone apply at Formas. However, on the Indian side, the actors relevant for funding may vary. So I refer you to the call text where we have summarized all the relevant information concerning this call. Next, please. Funding. So the maximum funding per project is 6 million Swedish crown for the Swedish participants in a project. The Indian participants apply in parallel from an Indian research funding agency. So the Swedish part of the project can receive 6 million Swedish crowns. And as I said, Swedish actors apply from Formas, and companies seeking funding are expected to co-finance their eligible costs by 50%. Startups may receive more, and non-financial research organizations can receive up to 100% funding, while public sector and other non-financial activities can receive up to 80% funding. And I refer Indian applicants to DST, DBT, MWS, and BIREC for more details on funding levels on the Indian side. Next, please. So we've had information meeting this morning. We'll have another one the 2nd of June, and you may reach out to us at any point with your questions, and as well as in the Q&A session today. The deadline for the call is the 22nd of June, 2 p.m. Central European time for Swedish applicants. So, and we hope that projects can start by the end of the year. So with that, I'd like to end. There's one more slide where this is a link where you can find more information on the call. It's a link to Formas webpage, and there's also information on Vinnova's webpage, for example. And please, one more slide. This is our LinkedIn group, Sweden India Innovation Initiative. And in this group, we also share information about this funding opportunity, as well as other future funding opportunities. And in this group, you may also find partners, other actors that are hoping to collaborate within, for example, circular economy to apply within this call. In this group, we also post information about other Indo-Swedish activities. So please join us in this group, and I hope to see your application in this call, and feel free to contact me in any way you see suit. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Marlon, and thanks for being here. So I was with you on the information session we had a few days ago, and one of the questions that came up there was, of course, the matchmaking. And you mentioned that, of course, we have that on LinkedIn and the page you showed us, but there could also be matchmaking sessions for partners on both sides of the India-Sweden corridor to find each other in the best way.
Yes, at the moment, we haven't planned for another larger matchmaking activity. However, we will try and support you in any way we can. So please reach out to us, and please reach out to other actors in this LinkedIn group, and we will do what we can to try and help match you with a potential match. You will have to do most of the work yourself. We might provide you, for example, with a list of Swedish, if you're an Indian actor, we might provide you with a list of Swedish universities, if that's what you're looking for. If you're a Swedish actor, we might be able to run your project idea in a database on the Indian side and try and find an Indian match. But you need to do quite a lot of work yourself to establish contact with new actors.
And the LinkedIn page provides that platform to basically connect and see who's available. And of course, networking activities like this, please reach out to SIBC, the Chamber. We'll be happy to help connect as best as we can. I will take one question to Marlon now, if there is one. Otherwise, we'll leave them till the end of the discussion today, because of course, there's a lot happening in this space. And a lot of people, of course, interested to know more about what they can actually, how they can actually engage. For the duration of the discussion, we would like questions to be on the chat, and I'll raise them. And then if you would like to unmute yourself and take the question directly, we welcome that. The purpose of this format is to be informal. We have amazing industry leaders here. We have thought leaders to help start the discussion, but the discussion is something that can be enriched by all of us taking part in it and asking the questions that perhaps we don't ask elsewhere, because these are people who have the experience, who have both the helicopter view, but also on the ground dealing with some of the basic challenges that happen when you take strategy to the ground. Before I start, I want to open up with Karin to say a few words about the Chamber, and then we'll go into the panel discussion and the panel presentations.
Thanks a lot, Aarti, and it's great that so many of our members and companies have joined for this discussion today. I'm Karan, representing the Swedish Chamber of Commerce India, and together with SIBC, we have been hosting these dialogues for the last few months, and this is the third such discussion under sustainability. For those of our company members joining from India, they know that we've been engaging with the sustainability efforts through various activities, such as the mapping study we had done with 49 companies recently, in addition to factory visits and such platforms that we have been organizing with our stakeholders and partners to jointly accelerate our green transition. I'm very happy to have many of you here join us today, and we hope that the discussions that we have today will help us to take forward some of the learnings in circular economy and what we need to do in our companies and as in the local ecosystem to further accelerate this. So thank you so much, and back to you, Aarti.
Great. So to be inclusive as possible, of course, please, if you want to stay off camera, stay off camera. If you would like to put your camera on and have a discussion with us, that would be great. We would like, of course, if the questions are raised, it would be great to have the questions raised directly from the audience. But now we go into our panel discussion, and we have three great panelists. We have Nirmala Singh from IKEA, Nikesh Raj from H&M, and Rupali Deshmukh from IVL. Now, all of our speakers are working on circular economy in actually similar but different ways. And that's why this discussion is going to be specifically interesting, to tease out the complexities of what we mean by circular economy. We have seen a lot and we've read a lot about what it means, recycle, reuse, the tenets that we see now in terms of changing our behavioral approaches to circular economy. But the principle, the core of circular economy is to stop the flow, to create a circular flow and stop an extended cycle of production in some senses. So we have a challenge ahead of us. I'm going to ask each of our panel members to introduce themselves very briefly and the work they're doing, kind of the thought takeaways that we will have during the discussion, and then we'll move into the Q&A. And I'm going to start with you, Nirmala.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here today. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Nirmala. I work as a sustainability manager in IKEA Retail India. Today, really focusing on circularity. So IKEA always strives towards having a positive impact on people and planet. And with our rapidly changing world, this calls for even more ambitious goals and urgent actions. With our ambition is to transform into a circular business. We're here to meet the life at home needs of many Indians through an affordable range and a healthy and sustainable living home furnishing range. And we always think long-term. IKEA always thinks long-term. This is our responsibility and a business opportunity, meaning balancing economic growth and positive social impact with environmental protection and regeneration without compromising the needs of our future generations. Now, for this to happen, it requires rethinking and inspiring changes in lifestyle and consumption, as well as adopting new ways of working. And we, IKEA, we are prepared to lead the way forward together with our co-workers, our customers, and many different partners, and we will use our size to make a positive difference. We call out to great collaborations together to co-create and finding more local solutions that will benefit our communities and partners and still being a net positive business. So today we map our climate footprint. This is through energy, water, and waste. And we've started calculating zero waste. This is the diverted landfill waste. And even if we have a very bold expansion agenda that I'm sure that many of you have been following eagerly, we work towards constantly reducing our climate footprint. And we seek more opportunities in circular services. This is a big priority and ambition for us. One of them is within the circular sustainable take-back service. We've conducted a few studies in the past 2 years and met many potential partners. Yes, yet this is a very tricky and highly prioritized topic. So to succeed this, we need innovation, agility, and a lot of resilience. I think I'll stop here, or do you want me to continue?
That's a great place to stop, because it's a cliffhanger in terms of where we're going to go next.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nirmala. I'm going to turn to Nikesh from H&M to be the next speaker. Just a quick introduction and the key takeaways for our discussion today.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Nikesh Raj. I work as an Environment Program Manager for H&M Group India region. I think as a group, definitely we want to bring fashion to each and everyone. In a way, I connect back to Nirmala here, which has to be good for people and planet. So these positive impacts on people and planet, that's what we believe as meaningful growth. So it's very important for a business when we grow as a business to consider how efficiently we use our resources, or how much of positive impacts we have on our climate or water or whatever products we produce. So with that, me and my team on a day-to-day basis, we generally focus on what can we do in terms of reducing those impacts on environment. How do we be more efficient in terms of our resource utilization? What kind of innovation or what kind of different programs or projects that needs to be built into our supply chain, so that we have a sustainable supply chain, and also we touch our longer ambition of being climate positive, which H&M Group has set for 2040. So this is what we do on a regular basis. Of course, it's not only for India or throughout the different production countries that work for H&M. We have the similar ambition and we have similar targets set for us. Personally, I think I also believe in the phrase of meaningful growth. That's what gives me energy to work daily on this climate change work. With that, thanks for having me today. And I believe dialogue sessions like this will definitely bring that prominence in terms of sustainability mindset. Thanks, Aarti.
Thanks so much. And you're right, just having these discussions with no kind of biased agendas or no kind of preconceived notions is really important. And also to bring people together to understand what can be done and what is being done. And I think the speakers we have here today, as I've said before, are great examples of that. I now turn to Rupali Deshmukh, Country Manager for India and Senior Project Manager for IVL. Rupali, tell us a little bit about IVL and the amazing work you've been doing on the ground, but don't tell us too much because I want to tease that out during our discussion as well. I think you're on mute, Rupali.
Sorry. Okay, Aarti, I will follow your instruction. So, first of all, people knows my name now. You have given a great introduction. Thank you so much for that. But you have missed one R, which is core to the circular economy, that is recovery. I will work on 3 R's, that is recycle, reuse, and recovery. Recovery is very, very important when we talk about a circular economy. Anyways, so what is IVL? IVL is a Swedish Environmental Research Institute. We present a broad environmental profile. Unlike many other players, we combine applied research and development with close collaboration with industry and the public sphere. Europe is our home market. Our headquarters is in Stockholm, where I'm sitting today. But we have offices in Gothenburg and Malmö and Skellefteå in Sweden. And then we have 2 offices in China, Shanghai, Beijing, and in 2019, we have the subsidiary in India, that is in Mumbai. What we do, we undertake the research project, contract assignments. We carried out the PMC work in entire field of environment. Our goal is to help the client to develop the resource and the cost-effective solution that contributes to develop or build a sustainable society. IVL has also gained the leading position within the international scientific community through coordinating, through participating and organizing the project and conferences within EU research programs. IVL is also the advisor for the Swedish Ministry of Environment, EPA, Swedish Confederation of Industry, and National Coordinator of Smart City Sweden. So I'll briefly tell about a Smart City Sweden. It's a national platform where we have some of the best practices what Sweden is doing for the international arena. And this platform is funded by Swedish government through Ministry of Enterprises and Innovation and partly by Swedish Energy Agency. In this, we work closely with industries as well as different organizations. And many delegations we receive, and this platform, Smart City Sweden, is run and managed by my organization, IVL. So what is our vision? Our vision is to develop the sustainable society, and we are driving the transition to this sustainable society by transforming science into reality, environmental problem into opportunity, and linear processes into a circular economy or circularity, which is missing. I'll quickly tell about our operations in India because focus is India. So we are working in India since 1970. Our first project was oil spill on a coastal area. So we evaluated what are the effects and what are the solution for that problem. Thereafter, our journey is really strong in India. We have worked on several projects such as monitoring air quality. We have established the environmental laboratory in south of India. We have done, we have carried out many capacity building programs on cleaner production. Our activities in India have primarily targeted the introduction of more eco-friendly processes and ramping up the cooperation between India, Europe, specifically Sweden, in the field of environmental technologies. Water, energy, list is long. IVL was also appointed as environmental advisor to Indian Ministry of Environment in 2014, and our role was to develop the cooperation between EU and India on environmental technologies. And we successfully introduced the smart and resource efficient solution in Indian market. The focus was also on water and waste, which are my favorite areas in environment. But we'll talk more about this and what are our project in a dialogue. So thank you so much for having me here, and great to be part of this such a huge panelist. I also want to mention IKEA, like IKEA and H&M are huge companies. IVL is smaller as compared to this huge company, but we are creating, or we are putting up great impact through our work. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rupai. And actually, I'm going to start, since we have actually worked together quite a lot in the last few years. I want to start with asking you a question, which will then resonate through the other panelists that also have similar but different impacts. What's interesting about the work that we've done together is with public sector actors, working with public sector actors to actually replicate the change that perhaps is easier to implement in the private sector. I just want to ask you to take us through this story that we've had with the Smart City Sweden engagement, our work with the different cities that we've been to now, and that you've been to, of course, with IVL's delegations, that leads to success when it comes to working with Maharashtra, working with Mumbai, and the turnaround that you've had so far. Because this has taken a few years now, if not 5 to 6 years of kind of helping start the discussion and create the narrative.
Exactly, Aarti, and you were there when you have witnesses our story or our success. So you are very well aware how we develop in India. So, for this, I'll give a credit to the project when we were working as an environmental advisor to Indian government, and we received a many delegation. And key to our success is our pilot facilities. I don't know if the panelists are aware, but IVL and KTH together own the biggest pilot facility in Europe, where we test the different wastewater treatment technology. I also want to mention here that we brewed a beer from wastewater in our pilot facility, and that was a super hit project for IVL. So so coming back to the topic, we received a mini delegation from India, and the Indian side saw the amount of knowledge IVL has it, the work IVL is doing in wastewater. So they approached and asked us, why don't you come and work in India? But India is so huge, and working with public actor, you try to go back. But my experience were really good. I like the way India is working. Like India has now proper institutional framework, having a good policies, and working with government side was really easy. In one interaction, someone said, when you work with the public sector, people ask you for something, but this has never happened with IVL. We got everything on our credentials, and we are here now. We are having big 4 projects in India, in Mumbai, where we are cleaning the water. So what I would say, and then there is another government of India has enacted right to information in 2005, which grants citizen to access the government information and mechanism. This is a very good mechanism to control the public spending. And then they have really good, what I can say, to control the bureaucratic or political issues. They have this good legal framework. And many times now the higher authorities intervention making things happen. India's awareness about water crisis or sanitation, those are my area. That's why I will say they want to make things happen, and they are working on that. So intervention of higher authorities are before it used to take a long time, but now they are there, and they are trying to make things happen. And I also want to mention here that India's march towards universal sanitation is truly remarkable. Their contribution to SDG 6, my God, I am really totally impressed with India's initiatives and India's work. Thank you, Aarti.
Thanks so much, Rupai, because I think what I hear here resonates with the discussions we've had with the other 2 panelists. When you are dealing the number of stakeholders you have to deal with in the public sector, like other arenas. You have to focus on, like we've said before, walking the talk, actually showcasing what has been done, be it with pilots or full-scale projects on the ground, but also creating transparency in the process and creating trust in the building of a stakeholder engagement theory and putting it down on the ground. And Nikesh, I want to come to you with this because we've spoken about the areas H&M is working on in the areas that you're involved with, waste, water, energy, and how you have to deal with so many stakeholders to create that change and so many suppliers. Now, given what Rupali is saying, do you resonate with her messaging, which is transparency, of course, and creating trust through demonstration?
Yeah, of course. I think it's not an easy topic when it at least comes to suppliers. I mean, there's a clear need of mindset change, which was required back in 2016, 2017. But what I see or what we see right now, there is at least a broader mindset looking towards moving from basic level of compliance to higher sector of talking, bringing in renewable energy or bringing in different kind of biofuel systems into the factory or the production unit. This definitely does not come only from what a brand has an ambition or what a supplier has an ambition as such, but this work has been done by engaging different stakeholders. For example, I can give a example of a particular factory. Of course, I cannot take their name here. I think back in 2017, when we started working with them, they had 0% of renewable energy in their system. And being such a prominent supplier for H&M with good finances in their hand, still they did not have that mindset, or still they did not have any thoughts on moving towards renewable energy. Of course, there was a great move from Indian government, or the policies here were much favorable to them, but still it was not something exciting for them in terms of investment. But later on, I think when we started engaging with different stakeholders like IFC or WWF, for example, we started bringing them into the factory, just saying, hey, do not do anything. Let us just do a feasibility study, or let us see if there is an environment to bring renewable energy as such. So I think that's where the mindset change happened. People started seeing, oh, of course, I can have this much percentage of renewable electricity, for example, in my own site. I have the favorable condition. There's a clear ROI. All these mechanisms started building up. I think these happened because how we started engaging with different stakeholders, not only private sector, of course, when it comes to different NGOs, for example, or certain cases we have engagement with communities as such. So it's a collaborative work, I would say. And I'm happy to say that that particular factory right now, I think 60% of their electricity comes from their own renewable sources, and they are looking into different innovations that could bring into their production line, so they can tackle challenges what they have with the natural gas, for example. And of course, the owner says, I want to be totally 100% 100% unit which is using renewable energy as such. I think that's a great switch. As a brand, we are happy with how suppliers are moving ahead. And of course, different stakeholders, how I mentioned, are helping us to achieve that ambition as well.
I think that's great, Nikesh. Thank you. And I just to ask you one question on the case study you mentioned, to put in context for the audience, because of course H&M is a massive name, and the nudging access you might have is stronger than maybe a small, medium-sized company. But still, I think patience is kind of the key word here to create that change. So the industry you're talking about, what has been the timeline from when you first started talking to them to where they are today with 60% renewable energy in their energy mix? Can you give us a kind of a idea of what
I
that would
think
be?
it's about 5 to 6 years.
Exactly.
But I think there are different criterias, of course, to look into. I think for H&M, we have some favorable suppliers. We have some initial suppliers still building up their business as such. So for us, I think we are very clear in making our segment of suppliers. Whom do we need to invest more time in terms of changing their mindset as such, and other segment of suppliers where we try to bring in different stakeholders, because they're in that level of moving ahead from the compliance level. So I think all these factors would would require 5 to 6 years of engagement with one particular factory. And the roadmap, what we create for all the suppliers, there's a clear timeline we set. Okay, for example, by 2025, this segment of suppliers has to reach this target of renewable energy. So we try to work backwards and see how that can be done, or how do we enable that. Yeah.
So that mapping is a critical first step in terms of understanding how to move forward, where to put your energies, and how much energy is required to make that change in different segments. But again, we're talking, like I said before, to big names in this discussion. And I think a lot of times we make the assumption that you know how it's done, that you'll figure it out faster than anybody else, that you won't make mistakes. But that might not be the case behind closed doors. And that's important, I think, for the audience to also see. And Nirmal, I'm going to come to you on this, because we've talked about your sustainability take back, this case study. And of course, you touched upon it and then left us hanging, which is great, because now it allows me to ask the question. We assume that you know how this works, that you'll figure out a strategy that will be flawless in its operations and in its results. But that might not be the case. And I think that you touch upon that hasn't been the case, because you're working with multiple tracks, often going in parallel. And I think Nikesh also touched upon this. Everything has to work at the same time for it to move smoothly, and rarely does that happen. So how has this been for you, and what does it mean for where you are today in this area?
Thank you for that, Aarti. And much like Nikesh is saying, it's a roadmap to constantly be agile as well, and look at it and adjust it and see, with never forgetting the goal that we have and the ambition that we have. Within our operation, like I mentioned earlier, and like many of us are doing, we are mapping our climate footprint with energy and water and waste. And through energy, we're also looking at renewable energy, starting with Mumbai. For water, we have quite a few things already in place. And for waste, we are mapping the zero waste movement, and that's everything that is diverted from landfill. And here again, we're looking at seeing how much. Even if we have the ambition to do that, it's not always possible, because our suppliers or the local area where we are doesn't have the facility to take back and reutilize the material that we have. So that's a challenge that we have. So that's in our operations. Similarly, we ourselves try to see, okay, is there anything that we can reutilize? For instance, our uniforms, we have been sending back into our other company, our sourcing company, to one of our suppliers, to be able to remake products out of those that come back then into our range. So that's a complete circular movement over there. We're also looking at reutilizing, taking back plastic and cardboard to regenerate into other material, either if it comes to us or to others. And then when it comes to services, like you were mentioning, this has been the trickiest part. We've done a feasibility study for the past 2 years. We started looking at mattresses, and then opened up a little bit more and seeing what kind of articles can we take. So this is to be able to create the space in our customers' homes. Many of us know that it's, what do we do when we have a bed or a mattress or a table that we want to dispose of, and it's not good enough to be able to sell or to donate to somebody. And of course, we want to divert from landfill. So how is it that we can support and take our responsibility there as well? And much like Nikesh is talking about, this takes resilience and time and patience, but also needing to connect with a lot of different partners to test and try. And this is where I say that we sometimes, less is more. Even if we know 80% we've achieved so much, let's try it. Let's try it in a little pilot over a weekend or in a smaller phase, and see what are the learnings that we're getting there, instead of just waiting for to have the complete study ready, but daring to take the leaps and being an entrepreneur. So we've met a lot of people, small companies, big companies, but we really see that we need more co-creation, collaboration together to make this happen.
That's great, because I was going to ask you, Nirmala, because we have an audience here of different companies, different sectors, private, public, and government, and we have the call. What would you like to see concretely? What are one of the trouble areas that you're facing that might be relevant for this audience to think about and actually look at creating potential co-creation solutions, given that we have a chance to do exactly that?
I think it's a very straightforward question, and I like that. I think, I mean, it can be all about having the right investment, having the right, I mean, opportunity that we see at, one doesn't have to have the full scale. One can be part of the bigger project in the smaller ways that you have. It's about, like Nikesh talked about, it's having the right mindset and to be able to build and invest together. An investment like Molly was talking about, it can be a bigger investment, but it also can be we all pitch in together for the cause and seeing. So as we said, we are a big player in the market, and we have a big contribution to do, and therefore the ability to be able to make the changes quite significant. So I know there are a lot of people over here, so maybe feel free to reach out to have further conversations either here or later on. It'd be good to see if we can have maybe later on a workshop together to have more innovation, because we are experts in the life at home, but we are not experts in this area. But we need your expertise to be able to meet this goal together.
Thanks so much, Mara. I think that's really good to hear. And please, everyone on the call, feel free to reach out with questions today. Reach out with questions today, or of course, reach out to us at the Chamber or SIBC and directly to Nirmala, whose information is on the website. But one thing that H&M and IKEA, of course, face is that you are located in so many parts of the country in India. You're located in different cities and different states, each with different engagement strategies when it comes to circularity, each with different policy points of contact, and understanding how that public sector engagement can be best done is an important part, I would imagine, the circular economy strategy that you have. And then I want to come back to Rupali in this, because again, there's been a change in the last 5 to 6 years. And of course, having IVL as a spokesperson on the ground, like you say, with your credentials, has opened some big doors. Tell us about the Maharashtra work you're doing with the 7 STPs in the Mumbai area, and what have been the key lessons that you have learned about engaging with the public sector? What should we all take away from this discussion in terms of what to keep in mind when we're talking to the public sector, the challenges they face, because they are working with a lot at the same time, like all of us who are working in the circular economy area. But when it comes to waste and water that you're working with, what have you seen?
Thank you, Aarti. So first, I want to highlight we were planning one project with IKEA, the Turpe landfill. Why I'm saying that, I will give you a big quick background, because there should be this willingness, and sometimes it is lacking from the government side. Like in Maharashtra government, like we wrote the proposal together with IKEA, we presented, but every time we only ourselves cannot finance the project. We need equal participation from the local government, local side, and that was missing in that project. Coming back to my project, now India has so many good initiatives, like Clean India Mission 2.0 is focusing on water. And through that mission, they have decided to build STP because they want to touch the SDG 1, 2, 3. If you see like SDG 1, hunger problem, and then good health, and then poverty reduction. And of course, the bigger interest is SDG 6, that is clean water and sanitation. So India, after a long time, India has awakened and understood that it is very important to work on those areas, and they are doing remarkable work. They are speeding up the process. When the delegation come here, they see what type of knowledge and understanding we have, and they want the similar type of knowledge or understanding there. It is not like that India don't have any technology. They do have, but they need some kind of knowledge transfer to run those technologies. So our work, Aarti, in Mumbai project, we are doing a PMC, project management consultancy. So the earlier phase, we are evaluating the bids from the contractor, and those are really huge. I cannot name them. The process is going on for the 2 projects. My other 2 projects are running well. So, and I'm proud that IVL will be the part of this India journey, because this will be the first full scale having a tertiary treatment plant in India. And IVL will help India to come or touch SDG 6 close. That's why I said that even if we are small, the impact at a global level is bigger through our work. And coming back to the working with public sector, you need to have that clarity. We are here to work. What we can offer is a knowledge and based technology from Sweden or from Europe. Sorry. But we means like I never faced. Someone said me, because maybe Rupali or women is leading the organization, that's why I did not encounter any kind of corruption or any kind of bad foul play. But I don't think it is like that. Now the policies and the institutional framework is so good in India that everything is checked on daily basis, I would say. And like there was a delay in our project also, but then there is a NGT to push the local side. Then there is higher authorities like Honorable Supreme Court intervention made things happen. But the local side, local municipality also has that willingness to make things happen. And I'm lucky that I am working with really good municipality, really good local stakeholder, good government. So the things are happening and things are proceeding.
So, I mean, what you said to us in the past also is it's about choosing your stakeholders. And of course, the same way that Nikesh mentioned the mapping to begin with the suppliers they work with, IVL has now been on the ground for such a long time. You also understand where the strongest uptake could be and are working with them, because of course your bandwidth is only so large. So you were saying that you're being approached by multiple actors now to come and replicate the success that you've had in Maharashtra and Mumbai. But that's something that you have to take on a piece-by-piece, step-by-step approach, because there's only so much. And it's a massive undertaking. If you could just tell us about the size of the 7 STPs in total that you'll be working with.
So, Aarti, we are not the one who are working on all 7 STP. IVL is working on 2, and that is very important and prestigious to a local side also, Bandra and Worli. As you know, Bandra area and Worli, those are high posh area they call. So we are working on those 2 projects. And the size of Worli is 500 million liter per day, whereas the Bandra is 360. So those are really huge as compared to, if you compare with Henriksdal here, so it is double the size. And the credential we will gain, as you said, we have been approached by many municipalities to come forward. But I have a lot on my plate, so I want to focus on Maharashtra, and of course slowly we will approach to other state or other municipalities.
So let me suggest something to you, just as an idea to throw out there, because of course Marlon's introduced the circular economy core, 3 parties to be involved to take things forward. It could be that IVL partners up with some of the people maybe on this call to look at how you can address this clear demand. And the IVL credential has been critical to getting this demand going and getting the questions that you've had. And so that could be something to consider. Marlon, any thoughts on that? I see a thumbs up, which is great.
Yeah. I would gladly welcome your application, and you need to be 3, like Ms. Arati Devi said, 3 participants, but you're allowed to be more as well in case you're looking for a broader collaboration.
Definitely, Marlon, you know how much we like Ivinova and how much we like research. So we have that plan and we are developing the application, and we will be soon sending you in.
Great, wonderful.
But with the same discussion on public sector and the differences in the public sector actors that we work with and that you work with, Nikesh, you touched upon before when we spoke about some of the challenges that you faced, specifically when it comes to different states, different policies, and trying to work in tandem with a very fast changing goalpost. Now you mentioned power PPAs when we were talking last time, and how you're working with suppliers and understanding how the PPAs work. and how difficult this has been for you. Can you shed some more light on that? And then I ask you to think about, again, we have this joint call. What are the questions that some of the audience here can address or look to address when it comes to answering some of the challenges you might be facing?
Definitely. I think, Aarti, somewhere I echo Rupali when it comes to policies and infrastructure on policies. Of course, India has very stringent policies and favorable policies when it comes to different areas of environment, may it be energy, water, or waste as such. But the challenge, what I see, is not on the policies, but rather the enforcement of these policies. So, for example, when it comes to water, I think there's a strong policy, at least to have zero liquid discharge systems in certain industries where water use is used stringently, and there's no allowance for groundwater as such, and also it's enforced in a way so that there's a strict observation, follow-ups on that, and making sure that industries follow that. But when it comes to energy, for example, rightly as you said, especially when it comes to PPA, what we observed, the situation is not same in all the different states in India. For example, Central has one clear policy allowing PPA in different states, but states have their own discoms, and these discoms make procedures very stringent and very unfavorable to suppliers. So they even forget about going to PPA because it will take years long and it's just waste of their time and efforts. For example, it's much favorable in, let's say, Karnataka, where the situation in Haryana is not same as such. So I think enforcement of policy is something we face challenge with. And also when it comes to smaller industries, I mean, for H&M Group, we have suppliers with, let's say, about 5,000 workers, and also we have suppliers where there are about 3,300 workers. So energy requirement might be quite high for some industry or supplier, but requirement for some suppliers would be very less, sometimes less than 1 megawatt. So in such cases, there is no favorable policy for them to look into different PPA options. For example, that small scale industry might not even own a building. So having on-site solar or procuring energy from wind system is very difficult for them. So some favorable policies to address these kind of challenges would be beneficial, because I think somewhere what Nirmala said, I think taking care of that 80% is much more easier, but probably that 20% is something still a challenge later on. So even when we look into our roadmap, I think working with suppliers who are very strong, who has very good infrastructure, and the size is huge, it's much easier for us. Rather, when we try to work with smaller suppliers, I think it's a day-to-day challenge and discussion to see, what can we do better. Of course, the draft policies are in place, but I'm not sure how long it would take. And looking at the history, what we have, usually it goes on talks for a certain period of time and before it comes to implementation. I think, there are definitely areas of improvement and focus that needs to be given a fact that as government of India has committed to be climate positive by 2070, I guess. That still seems long, but it's definitely not long. I mean, pretty good. Yeah, I just wanted to share one article which I read today. I think somewhere we all talk about working towards not having temperature raised by 1.5 degree, but nobody speaks about reducing the coal usage in the whole world by half, because if we do not do it today, we will never reach that target. So we are all focusing on the emission or the climate change factor, but what we should really do to tackle that, I think we are not setting target for that. I think that's where we should be working on.
I think industry, of course, plays a huge part of that conversation. We have Stockholm Plus 50 happening in June, where we really focus on the industry role of taking forward this discussion and reaching these very ambitious targets, but it has to be done together. Government plays one part, but of course, industry and academia play the part of creating innovation and technology transfer that can make this change happen. And I think it's great that you're kind of raising the point about the different policies, and why we again gather here today is that we have Team Sweden in the room, if you like, and we have the chamber here in the room as well. And the operational discussions, the innovation discussions, we have audience in the room to understand and hopefully take forward some of the things you're saying. And then we have the chamber and we have the government represented take forward some of the policy questions maybe that you're raising. But what I'd like to ask Nimrala is that you're facing similar challenges. You're looking at different areas and different locales in India. What are one of the biggest, I mean, you mentioned the innovation from the technology transfer point of view. You need the innovation. You need to see what can be done, try it again, fail fast, move on. But from your supply and stakeholder mapping, where do you feel the challenges are there? Where are the learnings that you've had, and what are the key areas for success in terms of actually getting circular economy changes in the 3 ways: zero landfill, zero waste, actually deployable?
Well, I think it's a lot that has already been said, but I think that is also the bigger question for us, that we haven't really been able to crack the code here. But I'm getting a lot of ideas and a lot of good information and knowledge from you all here. So I already see how I'm going to reconnect with definitely Nikesh and Rupali and Maulin to continue these conversations and learn from each other. I think that I mean, the purpose of this forum is really for us to come together and hear what we're doing. And sometimes a business idea, it's more about understanding the core of it and to making it happen on the different aspects of it. But the achievement is the same for many of us. So if we can piggyback, if we can say that, from each other and like we see in IKEA, sometimes we steal with pride from what other countries are doing on the same project. That's the most important, because like Nikesh is saying, we have a target to reach, and that's the most important. So I think that many of the challenges that has been discussed here is about policy. It's about having the right mindset from both government, local government, but also different partners. And possibly also daring to step outside of one's comfort zone and seeing that, okay, this is our business area, but what does it take to be able to achieve this goal? How do we do it? And to join hands with others, because another's achievement is also ours, because we do things together. So this is an opportunity to continue to do that.
That was perfectly said. I think what Sweden India Business Council always talks about is dare to share. That the strength will come when we actually work together to talk about both the good things, but also the difficult things and how we can actually work to solve them with the opportunities that are on the table right now, like Valen's introduction with the joint call. I'm actually going to then ask all 3 of you one by one as we end the discussion, and there have been no questions. And I think that's because there's a lot to absorb, and we can reach out to you after this discussion, share what's been talked about, reflect, and maybe have more pointed discussions to take forward with. But I'd like to ask all 3 of you, and I'm going to start with you, Rupali, if we're looking at circular economy in the Indian context, with the ambitions that we have on the ground and the global challenges that have been made local in the national context, what would you say we should look forward to in the next 5 years for what India needs to do and where India is moving quite fast and what we can look forward to seeing on the ground? Rupali, I think you're on mute.
Aarti, you only answered the question. You said India is moving fast. India is really putting the action. And as Niklesh said, that we know what are the problems, but we don't have the roadmap for the action that needs to be built to move forward. So, and every individual, all the stakeholders has to take the responsibility like we do in Sweden. So it should start from the home, and that India has to learn from, say, Sweden or from the Western world to reach their goals, to say for the climate change or any other thing. I think taking responsibility, learning from Swedish side, how we came forward, how we achieved the goal, why we are when it comes to sustainable development goal, why Sweden is #1, because of the action roadmap which we created and which we walked on. So that map is missing in India. So it would be good if India's higher authority sit and make that map and enforce it to work it on that.
Thanks so much, Rupali. And I think having you as part of the landscape and the network is so important, given the work IVL is doing with the public sector. And so I'm going to ask the same question to Nirmala and Nikesh, but we have a question from the audience, so I'm going to combine the two. The question is, of course, looking at the customer. I think that's very interesting because we have not touched upon that in the conversation so far. We've been looking at the producer end of the discussion. And the question talks about, I'm not sure if anyone in the audience would actually like to go on camera to ask the question. I will read it out, but if the person asking wants to go on camera, please feel free. We all firmly believe that the end customer plays an important role to drive circularity. What would you like to see and understand on steps that can be taken from the customer side to drive some of the agendas that you were also putting in place? Nirmala, I'm going to start with you, and then Nikesh, I'll come to you afterwards.
Thank you. That is a very good question, and that's always our focus at IKEA, of course. And I think that Indians, they know what they want, and they really look at affordability. That's a really important aspect in our lives. But also seeing that, okay, as a customer, how can I invest in making circular economy happen? So this means that how can I support, for instance, IKEA or H&M or any other companies to make this project happen? So having the ability to also support and play your role in this roadmap to see that, okay, I am ready to invest in this, to support. Maybe if it isn't, if the service isn't really as per what we wanted, to, instead of saying no, saying, okay, I'm ready to go on this journey together and to participate and to give feedback. That one of the biggest questions actually from the customer is that many of them are not ready to pay the price because we want everything for free. But this is part of how you can play the role to make a difference over here, to help us understand and create the change.
And I imagine transparency in the communication would be critical in doing that between producer and consumer. Nikesh, I'm gonna move to you with the same question.
I think somewhere I echo Nirmala as well. I think there's a statement what we use in the business, like we say products with better price, quality in a sustainable way. I think as a customer, it's not always price and quality. I think right now we should start thinking, is it manufactured in a sustainable way? Of course, we are not there in a stage where everything is sustainable, but I think that's where customers can focus on what I could do to make products more sustainable. I mean, if there is an option where certain brands or retailers give an option of recycling, probably start using that. Or if there is a communication which comes from different organizations, probably try to understand what that means and how can I be a part of it. And I'm very happy to see this change happening as well. Not only H&M or IKEA for that matter, even a small food industry, a packaging, people are throwing question. I mean, like, why should we use plastic when we have an option of paper? I think this is something which is happening, which should become more stronger. And as brands as well, we should start communicating more. Probably if I have a product, I should start saying how much of this product comes from renewable source of energy as such. So I think that's a good combo of information which goes into customer, which helps customers to take a better decision or purchasing decision. I think this is coming on the way. We are in a phase of making this happen. It might take some time, but I do see this is a future, and that's how the markets or the world would change to.
Okay, so that's great, because of course a number of the people on the audience today are startups working in the areas of AI and data. And that will become critical in terms of understanding and having impact with a consumer focus and a customer focus, because information is how we can move forward and helping both sides work together. Thank you all so much for being here. And we're going to have a closing keynote from Eric Valberg, the consul at the Consul General's office in Mumbai. Eric, you've been part of the discussions with all of this happening on the ground. It'd be great to have your thoughts as we close today's discussions.
Thank you very much, Arati. It's a pleasure to be joining today, definitely. So for all of you who don't know me, I'm Eric Valberg. I'm the consul at the Consul General of Sweden in Mumbai. Government office, same as the embassy in New Delhi, in the tenet mission, working towards spreading Sweden in Mumbai. This team, that's the circular economy, it's definitely something that concerns all, and it's all about the resource management. And we see that approximately 50% of our climate emissions and more than 90% of the world's water shortages, biodiversity loss, and so on are a result of basically inefficient resource management. And how we work to implement these kind of values in all our activities make us definitely a huge impact basically for our strive towards the sustainable development goals that we work on. Sweden, as you mentioned, one of the more innovative countries and most innovative countries in the world. Of course, we have made good groundwork and have good prospects for managing. We have Swedish government has adopted a national strategy for a circular economy that really sets out the direction and vision for long-term and sustainable transition of Swedish society. And yeah, as we mentioned, it's an important step towards Sweden becoming the world's first fossil-free welfare nation. But main part also of this, and what we can hear about this is, of course, this is not just something that we do for fun. It's also very, very much good business. It's something of value for everyone, both for the environment, but also, of course, for the country itself. I'm interested to hear about the companies talking today. I know that we have three real champions among us. All times I talk with IKEA, for example. I get even more and more impressed for each time how you are working in the areas of sustainability, circularity, and I know you have your thought and have circular corners in the stores, and also, but many other measures that are so hugely impressive and has a so large impact also, and really is seen, and we take pride to associate with in that regard, to see how you spread the values. H&M as well, really a true champion in sustainable fashion that we are happy to engage with more to spread this, and IVL as well, that we know the large projects that you have in my area, especially I know we near Rupali met a lot of times to talk about your highly ambitious work and you do. And this combines the essence of Sweden. I know when in our, for example, in our activity, our activities, what we do at the consulate, we are a promotion agency. We talk about different kinds of promotion. You talk about business promotion. You talk about culture promotion. You talk about value promotion. And as is also, you usually say that there's a kind of distinction, but of course, all of these are heavily intertwined. But every time we do business promotion, the overall topic of this is the values that come from the Swedish system, and which is spread out by all and all the Swedish companies as ambassadors. And one example also that from the consulate side that we last year that was mentioned before, the sustainability mapping studies. For first phase in the Western region, that's what made last year. This year, the national study that is presented by the embassy that mapped the activities of the Swedish companies and see which kind of impact basically they do. And first of all, what good activities they are really doing, but also already mapping the challenges and the way forward to even more spread this work for sustainability, for circularity, and so on. And this, I think this is a very good example of how we really can promote the agenda. And I listened to talks about with co-creation and collaboration. Of course, that is definitely the key to go ahead in this regard. I mean, the complexity of the transition that we're going through now really requires system change, and to rethink how we consume, how we produce, how we work in all aspects of our life. And of course, this is done in cooperation. We do this as independent. This need to be a collaborative effort of all possible stakeholders, and also both from the political side, from the business sector, public sector, and academia, and also private individuals. So to come together and to work together, and I think that this event today. It's been very, very good here to hear your views and insights on how we can do that together. And thank you very much again, and glad to be among you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric, for those words. We're all in this together, as you said, and this discussion is one of those actions that we can take. Malin, Rupali, Nirmala, Nikesh, thank you so much for being here. On behalf of Sweden India Business Council and the Chamber, to all our audience, thank you for joining us. And we see you in our next Sustainability Dialogues. And you'll find that on our website, www.sibc.se. Have a great day, and thank you for being with us.